Since 1968, the American people have been waging a war against the doggone gun control lobbyists in the government. This will help you fight those gun control bills that they keep coming up with. Gun control, Nazi connection. I'm serious, people. This is where it comes from. I want you to read that. Startling evidence suggests that the Gun Control Act of 1968 was lifted almost in its entirety from Nazi legislation. Gun control, gateway to tyranny. Proof that the U.S. gun laws has Nazi roots. The Nazi weapon law of 1938 compared side by side with the U.S. Gun Control Act of 1968. Now here's something, I'm going to put a link down here because I'm not going to have time to read this whole article. Are you tired of being told that gun control is a chronic pain that you have to accept because there's no cure? Do you, a law-abiding citizen, want to be free to own whatever firearm you want regardless of where in America you live, from waiting periods, gun bans, magazine capacity restrictions, etc., so you can spend time at the range or the field rather than fighting gun control? Are you tired of giving your hard-earned bucks in an effort to have, at best, only slow the gun grabbers' push towards firearm registration and confiscation? If you've had enough of death by the thousands, you're ready to take action to wipe out gun control now. They're going to show you people exactly where this all come from. The likely culprit was a former senator who is now deceased, and we have documentary proof below that he had the original text to the Nazi weapon law in his possession 4 months before that bill became GCA 68, before it was signed into law. The former senator was a senior member of the U.S. team that helped to prosecute Nazi war criminals at Nuremberg, Germany in 1945 and 46. This is probably where he found out about the Nazi weapon law. He may have gotten a copy of it then or at a later date. We cannot imagine why any U.S. lawmaker would want to own original text of the Nazi laws. To find out his name, read on. The parallels between Nazi law and the GCA 68 will leap from the page. For example, law-abiding firearm owners in Illinois, Massachusetts, and New Jersey must carry identification cards based on formats from the Nazi weapon law. Nazi-based laws have no place in America. Thousands of Americans died or were wounded in the war to wipe out the Nazis. So, did they suffer and die so that Hitler's ideas could live on in America? The law forced them to be unarmed to face a madman. To destroy gun control before law-abiding citizens are murdered by criminals and madmen yelling gun control, you need to get hold of the evidence as presented in Gun Control Gateway to Tyranny. You can then challenge the media, the most aggressive backers of gun control, and ask media personalities in your city or town why they back Nazi-based laws. You can help erase gun control, Hitler's last legacy. GCA 68, put your life at risk right now. You have a constitutional civil right to be armed in order to protect yourself because under the U.S. law, the police have no duty to protect the average person. I'm going to zoom this in just a minute, people. All right, here. There is no constitutional right to be protected by state or federal against being murdered by criminals or madmen. It is monstrous if the state fails to protect its residents against such predators, but it does not violate the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, or we suppose any other provision of the Constitution. The Constitution is a charter of negative liberties. It tells the state and the government to let people alone. It does not require the federal government or the state to provide services, even so elementary a service as maintaining law and order. And that's Bowers versus DeVito, U.S. Court of Appeals, 7th Circuit, 686 F 2D 616, and that was in 1982. So the Supreme Court last dealt with this issue in 1856. Okay? Then the 82 decision states the position in modern language. The laws of virtually every state parallel federal law. This has been done so since the Constitution was adopted in 1791. It's the supreme law of the land. As a result, the framers of the Second Amendment deliberately created and guaranteed an individual's civil right to be armed. It is your only reliable defense against criminals. GCA 68 ties your hands and keeps you from carrying out your legal duty to ensure your own self-defense. GCA 68 thus undermines a pillar of U.S. law and helps criminals to kill law-abiding citizens. Hitler would be pleased. Thus, the Gun Control Act of 1968 marked an approach to gun control. It replaced the Federal Firearm Act of June 30, 1938, which was based on federal power to regulate interstate commerce. The 68 law requires firearm dealers to get firearm license, which costs $1. Okay, that way people could have their firearms shipped across the state. However, in 68, the government required that almost in all cases only dealers can send and receive firearms across state lines. They ended a mail order sale of firearms by law-abiding citizens who are not licensed dealer. Gun Control Act 68 hits you even harder. The Congress gave federal bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. the power to decide what kind of weapons you can own. The framers of the Gun Control Act 68 borrowed an idea that certain firearms are hunting weapons from the Nazi weapon law, Section 21 and Section 32 of the regulations, page 61 and page 73, respectively, of Gun Control Gateway to Tyranny. The equivalent U.S. term sporting purpose was used to classify arms, but it was not defined anywhere in the Gun Control Act of 68. Thus, the bureaucrats were empowered to ban whole classes of firearm. In fact, they have done so. You understand this? But I'm going to tell you what. They are constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. I'm going to put a link down here so you guys can go read this. So you know. But they're still wondering why this guy brought this in and then used it for the 1968 Gun Control Act. But they found the Nazi weapon law and want to know who implanted that Nazi cancer in America. They've been looking into the background of lawmakers who champion gun control. We focused on those bills because of Gun Control Act of 68. It also enacted closely proposed proposals to August of 63. We felt the culprits were a lawmaker or congressional staffer. He or she would know German laws, and possibly even speak German. He was probably, but have spent time in Germany on business or during military service. So anyway, they started looking around. An old Who's entry showed up. I got a break. I found the exact records, an extract from the records. Guy who was on the Senate Judiciary Committee to investigate juvenile delinquency, chaired by Thomas J. Dodd, Democrat from Connecticut. He held hearings on bills to require the registration of firearms, to disarm lawless persons, to provide for the establishment of a national firearm registry, among others. U.S. Representative John Dingell from Maryland. No, Michigan. Testified at the Senate hearings on gun control. Senator Joseph D. Tidings from Maryland chaired some of these hearings in Dodd's absence. Dingell expressed concern that firearm registration required it might lead to confiscation. It happened in Germany, but Tidings angrily accused Representative Dingell of using scare tactics. Okay. Are you inferring that our system here, gun registration or licensing, would do anyway compared to the Nazi regime in Germany, where they had secret police and a complete takeover, Representative Dingell backed away. Okay. Now, why did Dodd own the original German text of any Nazi law? The Library of Congress had and still has their Reichenblatt, whatever, in its collection. Library of Congress translates by Dr. Solom Fricke could easily have used Library of Congress's own copy, but any member of Congress who wanted to read the Nazi weapon law needed only to be asked for to have it produced, and they didn't do it. Without access to Tom Dodd's personal papers archive under his hair control, we unfortunately cannot offer answers. But he did acquire the wall at his time in Newburgh. Dodd did not personally handle the prosecution of Nazi Interior Minister William Frick, who signed the Nazi weapon law. The case against Frick was presented by Robert Kempler, Assistant Trial Counsel of the United States, in 1947. But anyway, people, this is where this stuff is coming from. Okay? Now, I want you to look at this. Now, we don't want to end up like these people. You know? You know, we've already, the ATF and the FBI, they're really becoming like the secret police of Nazi Germany. And you can thank it to Dodd. If you wanted to destroy gun control, you can use this book. We are not the first to have seen this hearing record, but we appear to be the first to recognize the importance. This hearing record strongly says that the late Senator Thomas J. Dodd, Democrat, Connecticut, himself implemented a Nazi weapon law into American law, or at the very least helped others to do it. I will put a link to this, people. Please go read this thing. It's more than I can tell you firsthand. I'm going to get this thing copied. Thanks for watching.